Although free agency does not start in the NHL until about roughly 6 weeks from now, let's talk about a very intriguing restricted free agent that the Ottawa Senators have to sign. And that restricted free agent is, you guessed it, as you can see by the title of this video, Brady Tkachuk. The reason why I'm smiling is because every time I talk about this guy really in depth, I seem to get a lot of hate back in return thrown my way. So hopefully we can avoid that today. But I'm just going to look at, his point totals, and there's been a lot of numbers thrown around about what he should be making in terms of money and term on his contract. So let's see if that all adds up. 18-19, which was Brady Tkachuk's rookie season, he had 71 games played. He missed the first few with injury. He finished with 22 goals, 23 assists, 45 points. He would have been on pace for in a full 82-game season that year. Had he played an 82-game season, he would have had 52 points and 25 goals. So not bad. That's a pretty decent rookie year, I would say. And let's not forget he was taken 4th overall. There's a lot of pressure on this kid. He handled expectations quite well that first year. So in year 2, you could argue that Brady Tkachuk had less skill around him as Mark Stone and Matt Duchene were traded away at the deadline the year before. So let's see how he does. He had 71 games played in 1920. That was a full season for him, as the season did come to an end prematurely. He had 21 goals, 23 assists, 44 points, on pace for 24 goals and 51 points. So pretty good considering that, he didn't have a lot of very skilled pieces around him that year. Ottawa was not very good offensively. They were one of the worst teams in the league. They finished second last. So again, a very respectable season for him. 2020-2021 campaign, 56 games played, 17 goals, 19 assists, 36 points, on pace for 25 goals, 53 points. This was a year Brady Tkachuk, I think a lot of people expected him to really break out, and that didn't really happen. And you could say, yeah, okay, the slow start by the Sens really hurt him. But at the end of the day, yes, he was playing on a very young team, but he was playing probably with the most skilled team he's played on so far in his career. You could argue the first 2 years he didn't really have a lot of help around him. And for people who say Brady Tkachuk does it all by himself, no, they're wrong. That's very disrespectful to guys like Josh Norris and Drake Batherson, who played a lot of the year with him, as those guys feed him many great passes to give him opportunities to score. And yeah, if you're Tkachuk, obviously you have to be good enough to capitalize on those chances that you're getting from your line mates. But for people who say, oh, he's doing it all by himself, no, get out of here. Like, come on. He's got 2 pretty good young line mates he's playing with as well. Let's give them some credit too. Now, I've heard some pretty exorbitant numbers thrown around as far as what Brady Tkachuk's salary could look like starting next year. And I've heard people say like 8 years, 9, 10 million, I've heard even. Not too many people saying 10. A lot of people say between, 7.5 to 9 million. I gotta disagree with that on a long-term deal. I don't think he's really shown enough yet to be worth that. And Brady Tkachuk, don't get me wrong, he has not hit his prime yet. He probably won't hit his prime until another maybe 2 to 4 years from now, I think is when players usually hit their prime, that 24 to 26 range, maybe something like that. So he hasn't hit his prime yet. He's putting up a decent amount of points. A lot of people compare him because Ginla was somewhat of a slow starter in his career. I mean, just because Jarome Iginla had 90 points at one point in his career, a lot of people are saying, oh, Brady Tkachuk's going to be an 80 to 90 point guy. You can't guarantee that. And for me personally, I haven't really seen anything from him to indicate he's going to be an 80 to 90 point guy. And for Tkachuk, he's got a good skill set. I don't know if he has an 80 to 90 point skill set though. If he was to make 9 or 10 million, he would only be making 1.6 to 2.6 million dollars a year less than Austin Matthews, who had more goals than Tkachuk had points this year, which would be very embarrassing for the Ottawa Senators if they did pay him that type of money. And you may say, oh, well, Tkachuk didn't play on as good of a team as Matthews. Austin Matthews is the best player on his team by far and away, in my opinion. He makes Mitch Marner the player he is. He makes everyone around him better. He's one of the best, if not the best goal scorer in the game right now. You can't even put Brady Tkachuk in the Austin Matthews conversation. So what is Brady Tkachuk's full potential? For me personally, it's, I don't know, maybe, I think he gets more than 50 points, don't get me wrong. I think it's 60 to 70. I think that's very fair. I mean, he could prove me wrong. I'm not ruling it out. Who knows? Maybe he explodes next year and he gets 80 points for all I know. But I see him more as a guy who's like a 60 to 70 point range. So what do you pay a guy like that? Now he's got some other credentials, some leadership credentials. I don't think he should be captain just because I think he is a little immature as far as, you know, the way he handles losses and stuff. You can tell he is a bit of a hothead. I don't really know if you want a captain to be that way. And, you know, Brady Tkachuk, he has a lot of emotion. He wears it on his sleeve, and that's good. But I think he needs to channel that emotion a little bit better to be captain. But that's a totally another topic for another day. So he's physical. He's got some good leadership qualities off the ice. He's a pest. He's a bit of a rat, let's be honest. But what is that worth, though? Like, you can't pay a guy $9 million because he scores, let's say, in his prime 60 to 70 points. I'm going to go ahead and guess that will be his plateau. And he's physical, because if you do that, then you're going to get, let's say Norris puts up around the same amount of points, Batherson puts up around the same amount of points. Then it's just going to be a trickle-down effect. You pay him $9 million, then you're going to have to pay Norris or Batherson $8 or $9 million. And I think they're going to be great players, but I don't know if they're going to necessarily be worth that much. And it's just a trickle-down effect, and it's going to affect the team's cap. And before you know it, all the cap space that the Sens have now will be gone before the blink of an eye. And what do I have to say to the people who's saying he's worth more than Thomas Chabot? Well, I'm going to put it this way. I think you guys are leading more with your hearts than your heads. And that's not a put down. I'm just telling you what human nature is like. When we really value someone or something, we tend to overvalue that someone or something. And I think that's kind of the case with Brady Tkachuk so far. Now, finally, what would I give Brady Tkachuk if I'm Pierre Dorion? On a long-term deal, ideally you want to sign him for 8 years, just because, you know, just give you peace of mind as a management group, give the fans peace of mind that, hey, you know, we got one of our better players locked up long-term. We don't have to worry about him leaving town in another, like, 4 years or whatever. So if you sign him to an 8-year deal, I think you go 6, maybe 7 at the most. I wouldn't go over 7 with them personally. Maybe even 5.8 to 7, somewhere in that range long term. I think he'll get at least 6 on an 8-year deal, no question about it. I mean, probably 6.5 or something like that. But I don't think you go over $7 million with him. And also another thing too, if he's on a bridge deal, then obviously you give him less. If he's like on a 3-year deal, you give him like maybe $5 million on a 3-year or 4-year bridge deal, maybe even a little bit less. I don't know. Now people will point to his brother. His brother makes $7 million in Calgary there for 3 years. I think his brother's overpaid and overrated. He makes as much as Matt Barzal on the same 3-year bridge deal, and I would take Matthew Barzal on my team any day of the week over Matthew Tkachuk. So I think Calgary did overpay him a little bit. Matthew Tkachuk cashed in on one really good year, and now he's not doing so great. So for Brady Tkachuk, he hasn't had one really outstanding year yet to warrant him getting superstar money. Why are you going to pay a guy who's not a superstar, in my opinion, right now anyways, superstar type of money, right? It just doesn't make sense for Ottawa. So those are my thoughts on the yet-to-be Brady Tkachuk contract. Please let me know what you all think in the comment section below. I would like to hear what you guys think. And what is your rationale behind him making more than Thomas Chabot? For me, Chabot is more valuable than Tkachuk because he plays against the best players every night. He produces offense. He does it at a harder position too. I just want to say this too. Playing the wing in the NHL is probably the easiest position out of all of them. I think defenseman's probably the hardest, maybe goalie, but defenseman is a really hard position, and Chabot puts up a lot of points for a defenseman, and he has to be tasked with shutting down the other team's best players on a night-to-night basis. So let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe and share this video as always. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.